This is Laricy Live, and I'm your host, Matt Laricy. We're giving you unfiltered access to the world of real estate, where we can cover the market trends, news, and honest answers to keep you ahead of the real estate game. Laricy Live is brought to you by Lincoln Title. Lincoln Title is the best and most efficient title company in Chicago and is the best place to close your property. This podcast is brought to you by Titan Builders. Titan Builders have been remodeling condos and homes in the Chicagoland area for over 35 years. Whether it's remodeling your kitchen or bathroom or getting your home ready for sale, Mike and Mark are your go-to guys. Laricy Live is brought to you by Guaranteed Rate and Ben Cohen. Ben Cohen is the #1 lender in Illinois and can close your loan in as fast as 8 days. Okay, so today we are talking about real estate predictions. As we head into the year of 2025, we are looking ahead to see where the market is, where it is going, what do we anticipate happening. And, it's always interesting to see if what we think will happen ends up happening. We had some pretty big predictions last year. Some came true, some did not. I think my one that did not is, we'd have to go back and see, but I think I thought rates would get down to like mid-5s. I think that's what I quoted. Bobby, do you remember?
I don't remember.
But it was something in that range, which I was off. Okay, so we were.
Go down.
Yeah, I did say they would be lower, and I was wrong there, but I was right on the sense that I said that 24 would be much better than 23. And I was spot on about the frightful fall and that we would see the market take a dip during the election season and we would see it rage right afterwards, which we saw. And we also said that we would see one of the best springs we've seen since 22, but not as good as 22. So it would be just like a little bit behind, which was also correct. So a lot of these predictions can come true. And if you try to predict the market and watch these, it's beneficial because the more you understand about the market, the less stressful real estate gets. And honestly, the easier it is for you in real estate. So let's kind of go through this. First one is like, what do I think is going to happen in the new administration's policies for America? Will that affect the market in a positive or a negative way? Obviously, we're having a change of guard. We don't like to get too political on these things because we will offend one side or the other. I think most of my clients are 50-50. So please, nobody get upset when I say anything in a good or a bad way. I'm just saying, like, listen, we do have somebody coming in that's of an opposite party than the one that's previously in. And I do think that we will see some positive impacts as a result. We'll probably see some negative impacts as well, guys. Okay, not everything's going to be 100% positive. I actually think the people who will lose is going to be the suburbs, and I think the people who will win will be cities. There's been 3 pillars that have crushed cities since the pandemic started. The first pillar is crime. Crime really kind of took off since the pandemic. It kind of became a normal reality in life, almost like acceptable in some parts. A lot of DAs just started saying, like, stealing was okay and things of that nature, and that really pushed people out of cities. So you look at, pillar number 1 of crime, and then you look at, okay, well, we got a new DA, and then you've got, people kind of openly talking about crime and saying about how it's bad again, which is kind of crazy to say out loud that, like, people were kind of for it. But it really was a reality of life. And, now we're having DAs kind of take over, and a lot of politicians across the country ran on safety. And ultimately, if people don't feel safe and secure in where they're buying, they're not going to buy. And I think cities were in a very immediate impact of it because the perception of crime in cities was one of the biggest things that hurt our markets. The second big pillar was the sanctuary status. So if you look across country at sanctuary cities were hurt a lot more, and their price growth and inventory levels were much higher than cities that did not have that going on. If you take, for example, Chicago, we had a hotel called the Inn of Chicago on St. Clair, right off Michigan Avenue, about a quarter block off Michigan Avenue. They just closed that house, 1,500 migrants. Now, I'm not saying I'm for or against migrants. I'm just saying there was 1,500 migrants. And I can tell you that there's a building at 550 St. Clair that you would literally walk through a camp. Okay, so like you get this is a big problem. Here's a good example. It's like I'd get a client from like Winnetka, so that's a rich area, okay, and they're like they're for like crime and all this other stuff and sanctuary status, blah blah blah. And so we'd pull up and I'd park in front of like the Beach Burrito, I think it's called, or Burrito Beach or whatever that name is of that place. And we'd park there and we'd get out of our car and we'd start walking up to 550 St. Clair, and you'd have women start screaming at you for, sexual stuff, for money. You'd be stepping over like people sleeping on the sidewalks. You'd literally witness drug deals going down in front of your face. And then you'd have to like ask people to move to enter into the building. And although people are like, hey, I'm all blah, blah, blah for this, we'd get in there, we'd get out, you could kind of feel like people are like excitement in the car, and then you pull up and you get out, you witness all this, and then we get back, you'd feel people's temperature change, and then their energy would kind of drop. And then we would go into the showing, it would be very quick. And then we'd get out of the showing, and we'd get in the car, and then you'd see and hear people say, first off, they would just say, hey, I think we don't need to see the other ones in this neighborhood, because we would go to like 600 Fairbanks or 240 Illinois after that, or 600 Lakeshore. And they'd be like, you know what? I think we're good on this location. Do you have anything in like Lincoln Park available? Or they would just be like, they wouldn't say anything right there because not everybody's like super confrontational. So they would wait till we're out of the car or till they're home, and then they'd shoot me messages being like, you know what, we think we're going to hold off. So the sanctuary status, the second pillar, was a big problem for in-towners and out-of-state people. So like you'd see this example, people come from like Indiana or Ohio or something like that. And then the third pillar is the lack of going back to work. The kind of whole, work from home. The WFH has become huge since 2020. And now what we're seeing more of, right, you're seeing the hashtag RTO starting to come out, right, return to office. So you're starting to see employees come back, and one of the new administration's policies is that federal employees are going back 5 days a week. If federal employees do end up going back 5 days a week, you will see other companies come. Now, I know a lot of people are like, well, I'm going to quit, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure there will be a lot of people quitting. But guess what, guys? Like at some point, you will see offices competition to try to get a job again. Right now, it's been very easy to get a job, but at some point, it's going to be hard to get a job again. And people who aren't going back to work are going to be left behind. So I do think that the more people who go back to work, the cities will come back. So when we say, well, how do I think this new administration will positively affect our market? And I think it'll hurt the suburbs. So if you're living in the suburbs, it'll have a negative impact, because why would that happen? Is because I think cities are going to rise from the ashes. I think 25 is going to be the first year where we're going to start seeing the phoenix rise from the ashes here. Now, I'm not saying cities are coming back next year. I'm not saying that. Do not say I'm saying that. But I think next year is going to be the first year where you're really going to start seeing the energy really shift. And because of crime becoming a thing that people are more against again, the first pillar, because sanctuary status is gone, and because people are going back to work, that that impact will definitely, cities will definitely feel a positive thing. And I think 25, you're really going to see that. So that's one of my biggest predictions, is the three pillars that held up suburbs and crushed cities is going to start to kind of take a little bit of a tumble. Do I think the Laricy team will have a better 25 than 24? I do. I do think that that's going to happen. I think naturally, I think we should always be better than we were the year before. And I think that we are going to I think we've put a lot of things in place to succeed. And my goal for our group going into next year is going to be doing over $300 million for over 550 transactions. We haven't hit a closed $300 million since this team has existed, and that is our goal for going into next year, is over 300. What major technological advancements will see a significant progress in the coming year? What is it? Quantum physics, quantum chips, right? Computing. Quantum computing. Yeah. They keep talking about this. Yeah. I'm a big Rogan guy. He's talking about that and that. JB Pritzker's investing in it. So I don't know. Who knows what's really happening? They're talking about how now there's multiverses and stuff like that. So, I'm sure that'll have. How will that affect real estate? Honestly, I have no idea, but I'm sure that's going to come. I think the biggest thing that we're probably going to see a little bit more on is going to be AI technology is going to kind of creep in. That's kind of like the hot button. I still think it sucks. I think it's not advanced yet. I think this year we'll probably see it. I think we'll probably have the technology will make things easier with like follow-up and filling out forms. I think those two are probably pretty realistic that will be perfected in 25. And I think the efficiency on like mundane paperwork that is very easy to fill out that just takes 5 minutes, I think that technology in real estate will actually be useful. Now, AI headshots and, chatbots and, you getting a girlfriend online and stuff like that. I don't think it's there yet. Okay, but I think it's coming. What was that movie with? Her. Yeah, Her. Yeah, I don't think Her is coming yet. Sorry, Justin. Yeah. He's definitely looking for an AI robot girlfriend. Just somebody he could talk to at night. But I don't think we'll be there yet. But I do think we're going to see low key AI really help us out in words. Because right now we're using. What are we using? The technology for listing agreement, ChatGPT for like coming up with descriptions, which has been better, and it's better than it was like a year ago. So, but I don't think there's one thing that's just gonna like blow us out of the water. It's not like we're going from a flip phone to an iPhone this year. Which neighborhood do I think will see significant growth? I think I'm gonna go with West Loop. I'm going with West Loop's gonna be the biggest neighborhood to make a comeback. West Loop was named the hottest neighborhood in the world in like 16, 17, 18, or maybe it was 15, 16, 17, one of those. But it was named one of the hottest neighborhoods, and then it was named one of the worst neighborhoods. And now we're starting to see things kind of get a little bit better. You get over here. You got to get a bottle? Let's go. We got Justin coming in. He's going to interrupt this podcast. He's got to get him a little something. But while he's grabbing that, sharp-looking guy. Good fresh fade there? You got a fresh haircut? Yeah, all right, nice. Yeah, nice work. All right. Yeah. Little Justin shout out. Yeah, all right. So we got interruptions here. That's how it happens. We're in an office setting here, guys. Yeah, this is live. We can't do anything about this. But I do think West Loop's going to come back. I mean, West Loop got like really crushed during the pandemic. Like West Town has been more expensive than West Loop the past couple of years. That makes zero sense to me. So as a result, I do think it's going. I think at a certain point, from a common sense standpoint, that West Loop should be more expensive than West Town. And the fact that if I put a 2-bed, 2-bath on in West Loop for $500,000, like I'll sell it like a month, maybe 2 months. Like we might have to do a price drop. I put a 2-bed, 2-bath on in West Town. It sells first day on the market with like 15 offers. It's like, you put it on, you just like watch it fly like a rocket ship. Like to me, that doesn't make any sense. I've used common sense to get as far as I've gotten this far, and I'm going to continue to use common sense to succeed. So mark my words. Let's mark that. We got to get like a recap of all the predictions. Prediction number one, one of my biggest predictions, minus the 3 pillars falling, is going to be West Loop. Okay. What new trends in social media might emerge? I think authenticity is going to be 25. I think 25 on social media is going to be all about authenticity. We've always been a very authentic type. Actually, I would say no, we haven't always been. We had a social media person before that maybe wasn't true to us because they thought our personality was maybe a little bit too rough. And I was always against it. And I listened for like a year or so until I was like, yeah, I just don't talk like this. Like, it's just like, I can't do this anymore. I can't like try to act like I talk. I don't talk like that. Like, and I don't like being somebody I'm not. I think anybody who's ever met me, you could talk a lot of shit about me. Trust me, I got a lot of flaws, a lot of things you could talk shit about, say you hate me for. But authenticity is not one of them. And I think now people are kind of sick of like the wool over their eyes. I think they're sick of the filters. I think they're sick of like people trying to act like they're something they're not. And I think the big trend we'll see this year in social media is going to be authenticity. What are my predictions for the market as a whole? I mean, that's a general question, but let me tell you something. This will actually be prediction number 1. Is that 25 will be better, will be as good as 22. I think 22 is probably one of the best markets I've ever seen, and I've been around since 06. I think 25 will be the best market we've seen in since 22, possibly in the history of America. We got a lot of stuff going on. I think we got a lot of stuff going on. I think 25. I'm pumped. I think 25. I think 25 is gonna be crazy. Let's see here. What do I expect will be the quickest changes that will take place from a political perspective in Chicago specifically? I think we talked about with the three pillars, the crime being, with the new DA. I think the new DA is going to have the biggest impact. People don't realize, listen, if you got Trump or Harris in office, yeah, they got policies that will help us out, like the back to work will really help us out for sure. And I do think that will be a big one. But ultimately, no matter what a president does, it takes a while for that to reach something like us. It's not like somebody gets elected and boom, our city's wow, we see the effect of it. But one thing that we'll see an effect immediately about is a new DA. So we had a DA who literally just got, from what I read, if it's true, cannot practice law anymore because she didn't want to do her CE. I think she's a horrible person, and I don't care if I offend anybody on that one. I mean, I just think she was a horrible person. But you got a new DA who's just, again, wants to lock people up who commit crimes, heinous crimes, murder, stuff like that. There's people they were letting out that would commit murder and were out in 24 hours. That's, to me, is a terrible thing. But, the reason that'll have such an immediate impact on the city is that, what people don't understand is that cops aren't motivated to arrest people who do very bad things if they know they're going to get back out on the street immediately. And if they're not motivated to lock these people up, then these people are going to continue to do more and more crimes. And it's like a domino effect, and it's just going to keep trickling down and getting worse and worse and worse. And again, I don't think on I do think our city's got a much worse perception than reality. But for anybody out there that thinks our city feels like how it felt in 2019, it's just you just got your head in the sand. There's no doubt about that. You get your head in your sand. That's it. Now, I think that the direction we're heading, we'll get back to 2019. So I'm not saying this as if hey, the world's over, Chicago's done. But I think I feel like we've been in a relationship with a bad girlfriend, and we've just dumped her, and we got a new one, and she's coming in, and she's picking out her clothes. She's like, hey, listen, you got to wear this, get your hair cut a little bit. She's making you look a little bit fresh. She's like, listen, you got to go on that job interview. Get a shower in. She's making us realize, hey, listen, we got to kind of focus on ourselves again, make ourselves look a little bit better, a little bit more presentable, and then people want to hire us, right? And I think that's the direction the city's kind of heading in. So I think on immediate impact, I think the DA is going to have the biggest impact in 25, and hopefully we get a new mayor, which I think anybody who's watching this is going to agree with. And so I do think we're heading in a right direction, politically speaking, to make the city better. What do I think will happen with the back to office, building foreclosures? I mean, what people don't understand is we have a ton of buildings that are, office buildings that are in foreclosure. And if all the office buildings go into foreclosure, our economy will collapse. We're $36 trillion in debt. I don't think anybody's really talking about that. And we're broke. If you go down State Street, if you just get in your car and go down State Street, everything is vacant. Everything is completely vacant. And the reason they're vacant is because nobody's going to work. But if you get people go back to work, then guess what happens is people get out of the office. They want to eat. Not everybody wants a pack of lunch every day, right? So they want to go down. They want to get something to eat. They want to get a burger or something, right? So then a burger shop opens up, and then those people leave that burger shop, and they got another 20 minutes to kill, and they're like, hey, here's a little shop I can go in and spend a couple bucks. So then a mom and pop shop can open up. So then State Street comes back. It's just it's a domino effect. People do not realize, but nobody's back to work, so then there's nobody to feed. So then the restaurants got to close, and because nobody's going in the restaurants to eat, nobody can have retail open up. So then they're closing. So, I think that's all been negatively affected the marketplace. But I do think we will see these people go back to the office, and I think once that happens, and I'm a big believer. I'll tell you, I know a lot of people tell me how efficient they are, blah, blah, but I can only tell you from my personal experiences. And I don't think every job will go back to work, but I can tell you we've had some assistants who've worked from home, and I'll tell you it was awful. It didn't work out well. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them, but I think a lot of people, I would say the majority of people, have a procrastination tendency to us. And if you don't believe me, that's why there's 1% of people are successful and 99% of people are not. That's just the reality of any business, right? You have people who are at the top. And the reason is because the average person can't help but procrastinate. It's almost like in our DNA for most people, right? You get there, you're like, hey, I got to write this report. But there's that one episode of Netflix I want to watch still, right? I got to watch the season finale. I got to catch it. Who's going to know, right? Who's going to know? Nobody's going to know, right? So I watch that last season. Now I get back on the computer. I'm going to write that report. I don't know. I got to let me do the dishes real quick. I'll just do the dishes, and I'm gonna get to the report. Do the dish, and I'm going. Oh, the dog's barking. Let me take the dog out, and then once I'm done with that dog, then I'm gonna get to that report. And people tell me that I don't act like I'm gonna get a million people hate on me. Not me. It's not me. I'm sure. Okay, great. Not you. But I'll tell you, my experience is everybody I hired, that's how they were. My friends that I know that work from home, that's how I know they operate. I take a lot of buyers out, guys. Pre-pandemic, I don't think I ever saw a buyer from 11 to 6 unless they were off work for the day. We're taking buyers out in the middle of the day all the time. They joke around. They laugh about it. Now, again, I represent most buyers in the city the last 10 years in a row. They're always yeah, I'm working, but not really. And everybody says the same thing. So yeah, I think productivity is down on it. I do think people should be in office settings. I know it's a very controversial subject. That's just my opinion. You could hate it or not hate it. But I do think as that happens, that's going to help cities rise from the ashes. Do I think 2025 will be a year where realtors will be weeded out of the industry and we'll see less realtors in the business, or do I think it'll be less saturated? I think we will see a lot more realtors continue to leave the business. First off, the fact that it's a big thing in the media. We're so many realtors have left the business because it's a lawsuit and blah, blah. It's well, you also have to remember, I think we gained 20 or 30% of realtors in the last 4 years. So with that being said, it's been, unbelievable markets, and markets will get tough at some point. So people are going to leave, and the laws have gotten harder for people. So I'm a big believer that we should have half or less of the realtors that we have today. Because guess what? There's a big portion of realtors that don't even do any business. If you just look at the top 250 rankings, by the time you get to 200 and less, it's $5 million. It's a weekend for us. I'm not trying to sound like a jerk, but I mean that's not really it. If you really take this job seriously and you're working your ass off, and you won't do that your first year or second year, but by your 6th year in the business, you should be able to get that pretty easily if you're really working the business. But I think the problem with our industry is that you could go online, get your license, and then you get your license, and your best friend wants to buy a house, and you're gonna guilt her into making you buy it, and she's gonna have a shitty experience, and she just looks at you in my industry as a terrible thing, because I don't know, my friend just goes to yoga all day, and she made 10 grand off my sale, but she didn't know shit. So then they hate realtors in general, and then everybody just looks at us like that. My take is that, and I'm hoping maybe this is a prediction for the future, is that we make it harder to get our license. I don't think anybody should be able to practice real estate until they've been in the business for 4 years. I think you should be able to be on a team, but you can't negotiate a deal on your own without an agent who's been doing it for 5 years or more until you hit your 5th year. That's how I think it should be. And I guess what? I bet you we would have almost no realtors at that point, because people are I don't know, I'm not making money for 4 years. The fact that you could make $1 million your first year in real estate, not that happens, okay? I don't know anybody that happens to, but you technically could. There's nothing that would stop you, right? There's nothing stopping you from selling, $400 million, okay? But the fact that can happen, I think, is one of the problems. So my prediction is, I think there will be less realtors next year, but I do know, because I have been talking to people, that they are going to make the barrier to entry to be harder. What neighborhood do I expect to perform better or worse? Okay, so we already named which one we thought was going to be the best. So let's say which one we think is going to perform the worst. I'm going to go with the Loop will fall as the worst neighborhood in 25. Now, I do think it's going to perform better than it has in the past 4 years. I just don't think it's going to get to a point where it's going to be much. I don't think we're going to see gangbusters out of it. So if I had to rank all the Chicago neighborhoods, and by the end of the year, which one's going to have the lowest sales, the most market time, the most cancellations, it'll be the Loop. What's our team's goals? We talked about that. Outside of my sales and accomplishments. Yeah, I can't even say that. I don't know what happened to me. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's just talk about outside of our sales. What's something that you want the group to accomplish this year? Okay. There we go. Big boy word. Got to get my big boy pants on to be able to start talking. Guys, by the way, I did terrible. I had bad grammar. I still have bad grammar. I used to have to go to speech therapist. Believe this or not, I had to go to speech therapist when I was young.
You have a slur?
I had really big teeth, and my parents made me rip my teeth out when I was a kid. So I had to get my wisdom teeth taken out when I was in 5th grade because it was so bad. My teeth were so bad. They cut them out, and because my teeth were so big, I think I had a little bit of a slur. I also didn't talk, so they thought there was something wrong with me. So I don't know. I mean, now look at me. Fuck, right? Maybe that's a lesson for everybody out there. Like, don't bring your people, because then now you turn into this guy. Like, that's not a good look for anybody. So I don't even know what we're talking about. What's our goal? Yeah, our accomplishments past for the year minus sales. We're starting a second office, so that's was a big goal of ours, is to continue to divide and conquer. I talked about this in our last podcast about how we want to, it's like a war. We started very small, took the company downtown, spread like a virus, took it over. I feel like we have a good stronghold on the downtown. Downtown's our primary focus. Please don't think we're like going to take our foot off the gas by any means. But now I'm sending some scouts out. I sent some scouts out last year to the suburbs. So like I scouted the territory like a war. So I was like, hey, go out there, tell me survey the land. Tell me kind of what's been happening with, some of our enemy troops out there, and report back and see if we have any olive branches to extend and any people we can kind of talk with, and let's decide if we want to go out that way. And we decided that it would be a good idea to start west instead of north. So we started west. So we signed a lease. We have an office opening downtown Hinsdale in 25. So our goal is to get that office up and running and to start conquering fast. Now, listen, I'm not an idiot. I don't think Rome was built overnight. But I do know that Rome came in with a bang, and we fully expect to take full advantage. We're taking our systems out there, our dress codes out there, and we're going to bring the professionalism that I feel is lacking in suburb territories. I'm not saying all of it. I'm not saying everybody's bad. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying when I look at a lot of it out there, I think there's a lot of room for improvement, and there's going to be a new sheriff in town. There's going to be a new sheriff in town out there. So our goal is to try to really make a name for ourselves and stick a foothold. And the reason is, guys, is because we've heard out over $250 million in business the last couple of years out to the western suburbs, the ritzy western suburbs and the ritzy North Shore. And, you're only as good as your last at bat. So here we are referring out this business. And, let's call him John Smith. John Smith goes out there. John Smith loves us. But, then he meets, Jill Smith, and he's like, Jill Smith's pretty cool. And then, John Smith wants to get a buyer. John Smith's friend wants to, live next to him because he lives out there. So he's like, well, Matt doesn't work downtown, so I'll give it the Western Burbs, so I'll give it to Jill Smith. So now Jill Smith's got that person. And now Jill Smith's got that person, and that person wants to buy in the city. So what is Jill going to do? She's going to take it on herself. And that's what we kept seeing is people we're referring business to is like, next thing you know, we're getting them they're requesting stuff on our listings. And I'm like, what the heck? We're referring you business. This should be a two-way street. And, after, I'm going in my 20th year, I feel like I can either coast at this point, or do we grow? And I don't know. I'm just not a coaster. I'm just like let's continue to push ourselves as hard as we can. So the only natural move to continue to push ourselves to grow is not only continue to grow downtown. Please, I'm not saying we're not going to continue to grow downtown, but it's also to go where our clients are going. And, a big portion of our market is like $500,000 sales where somebody buys a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. They close on it. They live there for 3 to 6 years, pop out a kid turns 2, they move to the burbs, and then we refer it out. And that happens all the time. So, by opening up our second office in Hinsdale area, our other goal outside of sales is to get that up and running and to start to divide and conquer. And we're going to have a team out there that is going to be phenomenal. And in my opinion, will be the best team in the Western Burbs by the end of 25. What is a personal goal of mine in 25? I don't really have one. I got to be honest with you. I believe every day you should wake up a better version of yourself. So there's not like where I'm like, well, I'm 25, I'm going to do this. I think I got a kid coming in January, so it'll be my 4th kid. So maybe, I can't really help out with kids anymore. I don't know. I don't set a goal that's unattainable and tell you like I'm going to win Dad of the Year here. And everybody's like, oh, what an asshole. Just reality is I work a lot, I don't know. That's a great question. That's a good thing. Yeah, I'll be on night duty. So like, I guess a quick goal will be is like, I don't really need sleep that much. So when the new baby comes in the middle of the night, do all the feeding. So my wife doesn't have to wake up and then like just crush that aspect. And I will tell you a trick. Everybody has these tricks of kids. So for everybody else out there looking for a goal, here's my personal trick that works for me with newborns, because now we'll be on our 4th, so I've kind of got it down. I don't know if you need that chocolate, buddy. Yeah, maybe I know what your goal is going to be. No more chocolates, all right? All right. Yeah, now we're hazing people here. My thing I'll tell people with newborns is that on our first kid, when the baby wakes up, everybody gets mad. Both of you yell at each other, who's going to go do it? Then you're upset, so then your adrenaline gets going because you're kind of like mad, right? And then by the time you get up and do it, it's like a 45 minutes or an hour can go by. By the time you wake up, argue about who's going to get up and do it. Do whatever you got to do to the kid, put it back to bed. Hour goes by, and then what? Hour and a half later, the kid wakes back up again, and you feel like you just went to bed. What I realize is that if you become a robot, right, and you just know that the baby wakes up, that you don't think about it. You don't think and be like, I got to get out of bed, because that's what happens, right? 10 minutes goes by, you're bitching about it. You just pop up like a robot, grab the baby, change it, wrap it back up, stick a bottle in its mouth, get it done, feed it, put it back down, rock and go to bed. I've timed it. I'm like at a tops 15 minutes, but I can normally do it in 10 minutes. Then you're back in bed and you're back to sleep, and like your heart rate didn't get up because you knew just to do it. That's just my little trick that works well for me, and why I can get through newborns really quickly is because like you don't complain about it, you just do it. But I know I say that, and people are like, well, I had a fussy baby too before. Our third one was really, really fussy, and it could get frustrating more. The best thing you do is keep that heart rate. Got to keep that heart rate down. Just got to keep it down. So that'll be I guess that's our goal. Like keep heart rate down. Keep my heart rate down while I'm feeding the kid for the first quarter. Do I think TikTok will get banned in 25? I don't. I also think TikTok's going to get sold. I think somebody else will buy it, and then it'll probably still be what it is, but it'll be owned by somebody else, and they'll think something's different. But
like Instagram.
Yeah, all these companies they're all watching us. They're all watching us at all times, right? Who on the team will take the most days off? Matt Piazza. It's not even close. Like that guy will crush everybody else. Yeah, Jet came close this year.
50's still a lot.
Jet came here, but Piazza's on like a different level. Like he's just in a different. He was in a different atmosphere.
I'm trying to figure out what he's doing.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing. What price point do I think will perform the best in 25? I think $400,000 to $550,000 in the outskirts is going to be untouchable. So if you're out there looking, $400,000 to $550,000, good luck. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough one. Do I think there will be more or less inventory this year? I think there's going to be more inventory year over year. Reason being is I think here's going to be a big reason why 25 is going to be better, as good as 22 is because there's been a lot of people who have been frozen in place for now like 3 or 4 years. People thought rates would get down. They're not coming down to like 2% again. Remember, guys, rates will be like 2% rates will be like your parents when they said they had like an 18 to 20% rate. Like when your parents say like, well, yeah, my first house had an 18 to 20% rate, you're like, shut up. Like we're not going to see that again in our lifetimes. That's how you sound when you say 2%. Like I know they're going to get back to 2%. You sound like how your parents sound when they said they had an 18%. It's just like it's not going to happen. So a lot of people have been frozen in place. So they finally realized like, listen, I got to pay this money. So they're going to sell. And then that's going to create them to be able to buy up. Those people will be able to buy up, move somewhere else. And that's going to create a domino effect. So I do think there will be more inventory. Which month do I think is going to be the best? I think probably overall for closings and sales will be April. I'm going to go with April. Don't do anything in April. My first vacation every year is July 4th weekend, and I don't take anything off until then because it's too busy. Let's see here. Will multiple bids be common? Certain price points, certain times of year, multiple bids will be the same. Spring wave, first quarter, which we're going to talk about in our next podcast, for the spring wave. You're going to see that be the craziest. That's going to be the most nuts. And that's when you see the most multiple bids. What's one thing that will be a trend this year to win multiple bids that we haven't seen happen before? A lot of people think because of the NAR lawsuit that a prediction for next year is going to be like people are going to be waiving buyer's commissions. I don't think that's going to be the case at all. I don't think a lot of people are going to do that. I really don't think. I think personal letters will not be a thing at all anymore because actually most companies didn't allow them. NAR kind of deemed them illegal. I don't think there's going to be one new trend that's going to emerge that's going to win out stuff at all. Any trends to look for in the marketplace that can change the market as a whole in 25. Here's going to be one of the biggest other trends I'm going to throw out there that I think is going to be huge for next year is I think the Sun Belt states and the warmer climate states are going to start to continue to get worse, which is going to help loosen up the inventory, which is going to make the market better. So here's what's going to happen is you're already starting to see this. The Florida markets, Arizona, Texas, Utah, Idaho, those markets are going to start slowing down. And as those markets start slowing down, the prices are going to kind of come down a little bit. And that's going to make it more affordable for people to buy into, which means the person who's got a place in Glencoe, whose kids went to college and they've been sitting on this house, they're going to sell their place in Glencoe to get a place downtown Chicago, which can help our market out, and then get a place in Florida. And for them to be able to sell, that's going to mean that the person that's in Lincoln Park in a 2-bed, 2-bath is going to sell their place because now they can get their place in Glencoe, okay, and be able to buy up. And in the meantime, that first-time buyer that's renting now is going to be able to buy that 2-bed, 2-bath in Lincoln Park. So it's going to create more inventory. So because the guy sold in Glencoe because Florida got better, he can then loosen up that inventory. So it's going to be what people don't realize is that all markets are interconnected, right? So like I get calls from Florida people all the time. They're like 50% of my buyers are coming from New York or Chicago. It's like, okay, well, if more inventory opens up down there, more people can buy down there. Well, if more people can buy down there, that means that people can sell their houses there. More people can sell their houses there. That means more inventory is going to be available. And if more inventory is available in the suburbs, that means that more inventory will become available in the city because people can sell in the city to go to the suburbs. So again, it's a cyclical cycle. So I think that trend is going to be the biggest one to watch. And I think that market, I think the Sun Belt and the Florida markets are going to loosen up. I'm not saying they're crashing. Okay, so I don't have anybody on here say they're crashing. But I will say that they will be worse year over year than they are today. Where do I think rates will be next year? I think my biggest prediction in rates is that I think we'll get down to 5.8, best case scenario 5.75. Now that's a stretch. Inflation's high, so it's probably unlikely it'll happen. Maybe it's a little bit more wishful thinking, but I do think it's possible we could dip below the 6%, but I don't think we're going to start seeing 4.5% rates like a lot of people. It's not going to happen. I think high 5s, low 6s is pretty much where they're going to hang out for the majority of the year. 5.9 to 6.2-ish. That's probably what we're going to see for the most part of the year. I'm hoping, okay, again, more wishful thinking than probably real. The reality is they'll probably be at 7, okay, like closer to 7 all year. My wishful thinking, this is where I'm betting on more of my heart than I am on logic, is that 5.8 to 6.2 is going to be the real is what I'm hoping it sticks at, which I think will help the market out. Let's see here. Is there anything that will happen next year that will slow the market down? So like last year, we said that we knew the market would slow down due to the presidential election. What do I think will happen next year? What big events are happening next year that will slow down the market? Nothing. I don't think there's anything. That's why I think 25 is going to rage. There's nothing. There's no midterm in politics. There's no one big event, like the Olympics aren't coming to Chicago or anything. Like there's nothing happening. That's why I think it's just going to be, I think it's going to be great. That's why I think it's going to be great. There's not one thing that's happened that's gonna hold us up. Do I think it will be more of a buyer's or seller's market? I think it'll be more of a seller's market in the outskirts. I still think we're going to have a tale of two cities next year. But here's a big prediction. This is another big prediction to know about. Real estate works in 5-year cycles, okay? 2020 was the first year of a new cycle, in my opinion. 2025 will be the last year. So, for 5 years now, we've had a tale of two cities where the outskirts have reigned supreme. The downtown markets have been awful, okay? Downtown markets are South Loop, West Loop, New East Side, Gold Coast, River North, Cedarville, South part of Old Town, okay? And the outskirts is everything else. West Town, Wicker Buck, Logan, Avondale, Old Town Triangle, Lincoln Park, Lakeview, Logan Square, Lincoln Square, Edgewater, Uptown, all that stuff, okay? And the outskirts has far outperformed the downtown markets. I think next year, because it's the last year of a 5-year cycle in my mind, I think we're going to start seeing the outskirts start to slowly get a little bit worse and the downtown markets slowly get a little bit better. Again, I don't think we're going to notice it firsthand, especially in the first 4 months of the year. We will not notice it, okay? But remember, guys, it's like a game, right? You don't win the game in the first quarter. You win the game when the game's over. And the game's not over until January 1st, 2026, and you can look back and know what the score was. So the first four months, I don't think we're going to really see that huge difference in the tale of two cities. But I think in January 1st, 2026, when we look back, I think we'll say, yeah, it was still a tale of two cities. It just wasn't as extreme of a tale of two cities as it's been. And if 5-year cycles are true, which normally is, that means starting in 26, we'll start to see it become not as extreme as it's been. So again, I'm not saying it's going to go away. I'm just saying you have to remember that I think the differential between the two is going to be a little bit less. Will the burbs continue to outpace the city? Yes. But again, I don't think it's going to continue to outpace the city as much as it has. It will still completely beat the city. I think it'll still be a totally different market. I think the burbs will still make the outskirts look like they're like a slow market, but I do think it's going to start softening up a little bit because even this year, the burbs were a little bit worse than they were the year before. Just a little bit, just a hair, okay? And I think there'll be another hair. And guess what? It's like a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, right? You start it starts walking back. It starts getting a little bit worse, a little bit worse. Next thing you know, you look back like, man, this fucking market's terrible. And that's why I always tell people is like people in real estate especially are prisoners of the moments. They only talk about like how great they are, but they don't look at the market as a whole. Like I could sit here and tell you how many sales we had, how we're crushing people, and blah blah blah. I could tell you how just unbelievable the sales is, and then I could say that the market's really good because I'm having a good year. It doesn't matter about how I'm having a good year. You have to look at the stats of what's actually happening in the marketplace itself to determine where the market is. So again, when we're talking about the market as a whole, I don't care if the biggest agent in the suburbs tells me like, well, I had the best year ever. Great. We had the second best year in the history of our company too. Okay. But like, that doesn't mean that the downtown market's raging. It just means that we were good at our job that year, so just keep that in mind. In close, what's the best thing I could let people know about 25? Best thing I can tell you, get your seatbelt on, strap in. It's going to be a wild ride. Mark my words. 25 will be the best market since 22. Thanks for listening to Laricy Live.